I grew up the epitome of being the nice guy. I was terrified of conflict, and I would never even think to put my needs before other people's. And all this did was mean that in my late teens, early 20s, I was miserable. And nowhere were the consequences of this more clear than in my relationships, or that, or lack thereof. I was perpetually single for so much of that time. And it was just because, even if I was lucky enough to get that one date, I would turn up and be that quintessential nice guy. I tell the story of on my first ever date, I was so excited. I really was buzzing to go on the date with this girl, and I really wanted her to like me. So I turned up with this 1 meter long rose and went all in on being the nice guy and begging for her attention to please maybe go out on a second date with me. It's fair to say that was an absolute disaster and she was not interested in dating me anymore. And I was gutted at the time. But it did give me a bit of an idea of what was not going to work and what was going to hold me back for the rest of my life. So since that point, I've gone on to overcome so many of these challenges that leave guys stuck in this nice guy period. And I've dated beautiful girls from all over the world. And now I run a dating and relationship company where I help guys get a girlfriend. And I've helped men from all across the globe get out of being in that singledom desert that they can't escape from to finally get a girlfriend. So, my name's Andrew Wilkinson, and I'm going to break down to you the 3 core ways that you can get over being that nice guy who keeps you single, alone, and miserable. Okay. Firstly, acknowledge how deep the problem is. The fact that you're watching this video already suggests you're realizing it's probably not the best way to live and to go for the rest of your life, always being that guy that puts his own needs last and is just a nice guy to everyone. Everyone refers to him as, yeah, that's Joel. He'll do anything for you. He's a super good dude. But then when it comes down to it, you don't feel like you have a connection to anyone, like anyone takes you seriously, and that anyone really cares about what you want in life, and it's just they like you because you're quite helpful. Fundamentally, this is not the way to live, and this is a deep-rooted problem. It will affect your job, career success, and your relationships forever, because it's coming from this place of lack we have inside us, and until we acknowledge the problem, we won't take it seriously. If we just think, well, you know, I like being nice. It's like, it's helpful and fun to be kind. And realistically, it's great to be kind. If you translate that word back, to be kind is to treat someone like kin, like family. And that's an amazing thing to aim for. But do you know what the etymology of the word nice is? Someone who is considered nice roughly translates to someone who is stupid, someone who doesn't get it. And if we asked ourselves on a deep level, I think we still know this to be true. Yeah, he's a nice guy. Yeah, I wouldn't date him, but he's nice. That's what girls are saying. It's like, he's stupid. He doesn't get it. He's a nice guy, but I'm not really interested in him in that way because he doesn't really treat himself with respect. So why should I treat him with respect? Why should I engage in that relationship? So seeing it as this fundamental core problem that isn't just something that you can shrug off, that will haunt the rest of your days until you try and address it, is the first stage here. Acknowledge it. Okay. The second stage, that is to self-validate and start to curate your own life. So the reason that myself and every other nice guy out there gets caught up in this cycle is because they want that validation from others. They don't feel good about themselves. So if they can be nice to people, maybe they'll be nice back and maybe they'll approve of them and they can be friends with them. And it's all this desire for other people to validate who you are. So fundamentally, until you can get into a position where you can start to validate your own decisions, to put yourself first, you'll always end up stuck in this paradigm that one of the best ways I've ever seen that you can get into a position where you self-validate and put yourself first is a shout out to Jordan Peterson, is to tell the truth. Nice guys are notorious liars because they would rather have that comfort in the moment of maybe getting that person to like them more or to falsify who they are to fit in over what's really true and what is correct in the long term. And finding a way to be that person that tells the truth will start to make you feel good about yourself because you feel stronger. When you're going around telling lies to people, you feel weaker and you give across this sensation that your internal mind watches how you act and then it will judge you based on that. And every time we lie, we're saying that their opinion of us matters more than the truth and how we feel about ourselves. So I felt this so much growing up that because I didn't feel good about myself, I would lie and falsify who I was and what I did to try and get the approval of others. But all that does is push other people away. When you're seeking validation from others, it feels icky. I'm sure you'll have had it one time in your own life where someone was just coming on a bit too strong with you, that was really overly eager for you to validate everything that they did and everything they were. But that didn't make you feel good. It made you feel strange. You wanted them to be more confident in who they are. So fundamentally, finding a way to be that person that tells the truth is the first step in escaping being a nice guy. And that's going to be difficult because it's hard to tell the truth, because sometimes we have to say the hard thing in the moment and tell the friend that, oh, I don't actually want to go to that event. That's not something that I'm interested in, rather than going to the event. Or being able to tell the girl that when she does something that you don't particularly like and don't appreciate, being able to tell the truth and say that, hey, I really like you, but this thing that you did, it put me off a little bit. That's not something that I want to engage in my relationships. And that sucks, because then you kind of create this space between you where you think you're pushing away and you're pulling back. And for a nice guy, this truly hurts. But the thing is, this gives you actual real boundaries and people can connect to that, rather than you just being this paper mache man that people can just push through. And self-validation is necessary. You can't just outsource how you feel about yourself to the entire world. And that doesn't mean you don't care what anyone else thinks. It just means you don't get your entire sense of self from others, because then all you will do is compromise yourself and be the nice guy. And as a tangent to that is to curate your own life. One of the reasons that you're looking for validation elsewhere is because you don't like the life you've set up for yourself. What I did was I went from a life where I was miserable. The people that I was hanging around, I wasn't happy with. I was living in a small, shitty town in the UK that I didn't like. So all of these parts of my life, I wasn't particularly happy about. And all that meant was I'd seek validation elsewhere. Once you take some agency, you leave that social group that's probably holding you back, that project onto you this nice guy behavior, that they always see you as the nice guy. So they project that onto you and then you just crumble and act that way anyway. When you start to meet new people, you get to express the real you again, who maybe isn't that nice guy. And finding a way to curate that is massive. Find the hobbies that interest you, because then this leads us into the second point. If you know what you want and you have the life that you enjoy, you'll be more willing to do stage 3, which is say no and embrace conflict. That how are you supposed to learn to say no to people if you don't have something to sort of buttress that against? What are you saying no for? The point of saying no is because there's this other thing that you know you are or you want to do that's more important. If you're just stuck in that hole of living a life you're not particularly happy with, that's just created patterns of behaviour, well, what are you saying no for? There's nothing there for you. Instead, once you start to build that life and have the friends that you're interested in spending time with, Well, these other friends that maybe were holding you back, it's easier to say no to them because you're starting to realize what having real friends is like, knowing what you expect and having standards for women as well, that there's certain types of behavior that you're willing to accept and you're not willing to accept. But until you've started to curate what the life is that you want, what you're looking for, you'll always struggle to say no, because otherwise you're just saying no for the sake of no. You want to know why it is that you're saying no. No, I don't want to go out drinking tonight because I'm working on this. I want to be more athletic. I'm wanting to improve my business. Whatever it is that you're trying to do, you need that other thing to push the no off of. And until you get that no, it will always be truly difficult. I remember working with a client who was very much that quintessential nice guy, and that he would always help this girl, whatever she needed. If she needed anything moving around the house, if she needed driving anywhere, if she needed some babysitting doing, anything like this, he was always there because, well, he didn't enjoy anything else he was doing in his life. So this was, unfortunately, an improvement to just go get that validation. But once we started to sort of tune up his life, he started to get more friends and branch out, started exercising. Well, when she came calling for him to do all these things for her, he started to say no because he actually had a better alternative. He had something that he was building, a new identity that he was no longer held back by. So he started to get that sense of self-esteem that everyone's after when you are that nice guy. And he did it by creating the life that he wants, which is honestly easier said than done. If you can start to put a few different elements into your life that you're actually wanting, which is new social groups, new habits, new hobbies, you can transform your life really quickly, and that will help you be that person that can say no. And begin to embrace conflict. So a bunch of people where I've seen a big benefit is where they start to recommend going into like a martial art, which I fully back. Like, I've dabbled with it myself. It helps you become more confident. It allows you to be in some exposure to conflict in that manner, which is something that fundamentally a nice guy is terrified of. But it's in a controlled environment. You build up your strength. It's that exposure therapy thing that you get better and better and better with it. But that's quite a lot. It's a big commitment. I will agree. So if you're going to take that on, I highly recommend you do it. But it is a lot. So what I did in my life was I just allowed myself to hang around with some people that I thought were still a good person, but they were just a lot more disagreeable. Put it that way, that they were very good at putting their own needs first. I remember one guy that I lived with, and he is great, but he's an absolute pain in the arse because he was at the opposite end of the spectrum, that he's very good at just putting what he wanted first. And I was having a bit of like a low day. I wasn't really paying attention. And in passing, he'd asked to put up his clothes rack for like drying your clothes and just keep it in my bathroom perpetually because he thought it didn't look very nice in his room. And because I wasn't like concentrating that much, I kind of shrugged it off and just said yeah, as my like default nice guy mentality came up. And then 5 minutes later, I go into my bathroom and see that there's this absolute massive bloody drying rack that's taking up half my bathroom and just looks a mess. And I'm like, what the hell just happened? Why have I now got this? It doesn't belong to me just because it didn't look good in his room. And then I had to go back in there and be like, dude, you are going to have to take that out of the bathroom. Like, I'm not having it in there. It is huge and it's a complete annoyance. And for me, that is painful to do because it goes against everything I am in terms of being that guy that has that people pleaser tendency. But in those environments, it pushed me to embrace conflict. It allowed me to have people in my life where I could test out that ability to embrace conflict and not run away from it. Because once you're confident doing that, you become confident setting boundaries, which is a huge thing for relationships. So seeing conflict not as something that's just there to defeat you, but a challenge for you to level up your skill. And I had a few people in my life where it was just like, yeah, fundamentally, you're a very different person to me. But I love having you around because you allow me to embrace the sides of myself that I'm not naturally geared up for, and starting to step up my game of being able to just be like, this thing, no, this is not going to happen. And if you're stuck in that mode of feeling like everyone else's needs are above yours, that will haunt your relationships. So start acknowledging how big of a problem this is. It isn't something you can put off till next year. It won't go anywhere, and it'll only get worse because you'll keep repeating these patterns of behavior. And then start to self-validate. And by that, I mean create things that you want to do. Put yourself first. And do that by curating the life that you want to live, that you don't need other people around just to make sure that you're safe and okay. You can look after yourself. And then start to say no and embrace conflict. The power of the word no is incredible. There was the first no that I think I distinctly remember really going for that hit home for me was when I was out at a bar and some guy came over that I like loosely, tangentially knew from school, and he was just a dick. He was not a good person to be around, and I was just there in a slightly floral shirt, chilling, and for some reason he just went for me, and he was super unfair and unkind, referring to me in a bunch of derogatory ways, but trying to play it off like it was funny, jokey banter, and I just kind of sat there and took it because I was still in that phase of the transition of starting to feel okay about who I was. But then I went home that night and I sat there and I felt miserable. I felt like every nice guy does when he reflects back and sees that he didn't stand up for himself. It makes you trust yourself less because you don't feel safe in your own company. Fortunately, though, I got a really lucky situation where I went back to that same bar the next night and he came back again. So I actually got the chance to have a do-over, and I knew going in that if I saw him again, I was not going to crumble. I was not going to be a little bitch and just allow him to just slate me for pretty much no reason. So once he came over to the table and he started making his little jokes again, this time I was very clear. I just told him simply, Jamie, if you're going to make those jokes, you can fuck off back to your own table. And I was just clear, and fundamentally, I was not having it. And it took me to say it, I think it was twice or three times, to truly allow him to see that I was not messing around. And the funniest thing then happened, that he started saying, oh, I like this version of you, this is more fun, and started trying to be pally with me, just because I'd set that boundary. It didn't escalate, he then flipped on his head and started trying to be friends with me. So having this difficulty around being a nice guy, it's something that can be accomplished to get over it, because otherwise no girl will treat you with respect. You'll always put them on a pedestal. It'll ruin every relationship you have, but the work can be done before you get into the relationship. And I have a bonus for you. The thing is with being a nice guy, you're often very empathic and hyper compassionate, and that is actually an amazing skill when it comes to relationships. It's something truly vital, and it will allow you to offer the one thing right now that everyone truly wants. And if you can master it, you can become one of the most desirable men out there, and every girl will want to be around you because you offer something truly special and unique in the modern day. And being a nice guy is really close if you can make the shift to being able to offer it. So if you want to see what that talent is that you can begin to offer, check out this video here where I break down the secret that you can offer girls that will make them become obsessed with you.